listening to the Coalition live on 790 AM Talk Radio. Joining me this week, Chris. The Havoc.
Good afternoon, P.O.
Conspicuously absent from our ranks today is our godfather of soul, the hardest working man in radio, a life force unto himself, as we like to say, a large man for a small job, Tony Jones. Tony's out there in La La Land actually enjoying his family this afternoon.
Good for Tony.
There's a couple aspects of humor to that.
Yeah, and here we are, each of us filling one of his shoes. His mighty large shoes.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a full week. We don't even have time for idle chit-chat this week, do we?
No, we don't.
We don't. It's been a tumultuous week in As the Stomach Turns, otherwise known as Rhode Island politics, Christine. 38 Studios continues to simmer on the pot. At any moment, we expect that to boil over. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. The pension situation continues to careen out of control. We are like a living, breathing driver's ed film here in Rhode Island, except the average taxpayer is caught in the driver's seat looking helplessly on.
Well, I'm just afraid of the part where we get to the last prom, where everybody smashed against a wall, teen drunk driving.
Well, we're that wrecked car parked outside of the limo shop in South Attleboro. It's listen. I just want to make this public pronouncement. Over the past, few weeks or so, a few months or so, we've taken a pretty hard look at the 38 Studio situation, and as Chris, as I like to say, it takes a big man to admit he's wrong. And one thing is absolutely true. I'm a big man.
What were you wrong about?
What was I wrong about? Well,
because you've been against 38 Studios' deal from the get-go.
Right. But, we took particular malice towards one representative, Karen Macbeth, over the last few weeks. And, if in doing so, it was never personal. It was more out of a sense of frustration at the impasse that she was constantly meeting. But I was wrong. This past week, her and Mike Chippendale got together. Mike is also on the House Oversight Committee, and they have decided that they are going to, at what they call the Rise of the House, tomorrow evening, between 5 and 6 o'clock, they are going to, in a sense, take on Speaker Mattiello.
This is getting very exciting.
No, it is. And here's the big point. They're going to push their attempt at legislation through that would require an up and down vote on funding the 38 Studios bond, in a sense, the taxpayer bailout. Politics is about the art of the possible. And while one would assume that this could be a driver's ed film in action, I have to give them particular credit for having the political courage to take on the establishment and force the issue. The fact, if there is a vote on it, that is in itself a victory, because in politics, it's almost as important to put people on the record as it is to win the battle. I don't know what the outcome will be. I don't know what impact this will have on their political careers. I understand that Mike is going to try and call in a few minutes. We're going to ask him what the average taxpayer can do. I will tell you this. Tomorrow, if you can't take 5 minutes to take the time to call your state legislator or state senator or any type of state official that you can actually get on the phone with and support Representative Chippendale and Representative Macbeth in their fight towards having a vote on the propriety of paying off the 38 Studios bonds, you no longer have a right to complain about it. You have ceded, in a sense, your part of democracy. If you can't invest 5 minutes when these folks have invested months, in some cases years of their lives, to try and take this on, then what can I say?
Absolutely. This is a small state, and every individual has a bigger voice in some senses than if you were in a huge state like New York or Texas.
Right.
You have the possibility. There's a possibility for you to make an impact by actually contacting one of your legislators. These folks knock on your door looking for your vote every 2 years, every 4 years. It's time for them to be delivering.
Yeah, there's a radio host down the aisle on 630. You might know him. His name is Vincent A. Buddy Cianci, and he would refer to this as a frittata. He would also say it's time to come cocoa, and which means in Jersey parlance, because I'm from Jersey, we have what we call a sit-down. Down south, they might call it a come-to-Jesus meeting. Ultimately, though, the state and the residents of the state have a right to be heard on this issue, because they were never heard in the first place. These bonds were passed over the objections, and some would say to the ignorance of the sitting state legislators. We as a state have been committed to in excess of $100 million of lost money. There were those of us amongst us who fought it vociferously, who knew how the movie was going to end.
Right, including everyone running for governor at that point.
Yes, and we knew how the movie would end. We weren't surprised. This was our own little episode of Fatal Attraction, and yet now we deserve that one time. If this state is in any sense a democracy, not a banana republic, not even a benevolent dictatorship, not some post-Soviet era relic that should end in stand. What should we call this now? Rhode Island stand? If we are entitled to any voice in our future, it should be right now. This is the time. This is the place. So we hope to hear from Mike in a few minutes. Chris, so much is happening in terms of the campaign. I'm starting to get whispers that the Clay boy might be dropping out.
Really?
I hope he stays. There's nothing like watching someone cynically lose a personal fortune that he had no claim to in the first place and had no role in creating.
You take an unseemly amount of glee in the prospect of other people's financial ruin.
The sheer gall of the individual to think that somehow he could step in without any governmental experience, with little or no managerial experience, run a state that is already on the pilings is to me astonishing. So
he'd hardly be the first one, but I have to say I wish he had run for representative.
We said
because the kind of experience he has, and when you hear him talk, he's more of the policy wonk type than the bully pulpit type. No. I think he would have made a fine candidate for legislator. But governor, I don't see it.
We pointed out numerous instances before of Rhode Island, leading Rhode Island leaders now, and I don't know, for better or worse, given the apparent results, having started out in the trenches, in the minor leagues, in the farm teams, and with that there's an institutional experience and knowledge of the law. I mean, just knowledge of the way things work. Now, given how things have turned out, maybe that isn't a good idea.
Yeah, maybe we really should be just pulling people's names out of a hat and saying, how would you like to be a legislator for a while or a governor for a while?
Yeah, no, it's...
But actually, an interesting point, though, is that a lot of these positions basically take, they're part-time. You can be on your city council and do that one night a week, and a little bit of time on the weekends, and be gaining valuable experience in politics. You can work your way up the ranks without giving up your day job, without giving up huge amounts of your spare time, and actually get your hands dirty in government and politics before you run for the biggest offices. And I'd like to see people do that more. Get involved in your community. Prove to me that you're interested enough in your community to actually sit through a dull Board of Education meeting.
Right, and understand how things work, and understand from the trenches up what you can do to fix them. I mean, the citizen legislator, as was initially envisioned, was someone who had brought their experience from the real world to the table with an outsider's perspective, a fresh look, all right? And, and from that point on could then implement ideas, implement improvements, kind of dust off the cobwebs of perhaps... There is a shelf life on a politician.
Right.
And unfortunately, usually it's a politician who doesn't realize they've expired.
You're past the sell-by date.
Yeah, exactly. And because the born-on date is a little bit too early for these folks, too.
Right.
Not that I'm trying to give a moral equivalence to Budweiser beer to any of these people. All right. But there's clearly an issue here. So, if Clay, as a part of the media now, I do enjoy Clay's presence in one perspective, because I'm hoping he's going to let loose with those media dollars and fund, a variety of the struggling.
Well, particularly after we've just trashed his campaign, I'm sure that'll be
I'm sure he's
right around the corner.
Lining up to stroke us a check.
I think he's smart. I think he has some good ideas. I think he's a little green to be running for governor. It's my personal opinion.
And we need him in this campaign to the end. Fight to the
bitter end, Clay.
Clay, hang in there, please. Okay. After the break, we're going to be talking with Mike Riley with just a few minutes, one of our regular segments, with a little bit of a new twist on it. Also, for the second half of the show and a little bit extra, we've got a very special guest in here. We've got Bob Steele, former congressman, former CIA official.
Oh, can we talk about that?
No, we can't. NSA's already on to us. But has written a compelling book about casino gambling, the run-up to, the after effects of in Connecticut. It's a great read. ultimately, are we going to learn those hard lessons here in Newport? You know,
Probably. I don't know if we're capable of learning from other people's mistakes, but let's hope that this time will be different.
We can fight Monaco on Mineral Spring. All right? Listen, you're listening to the Coalition Talk Radio on AM 790, your station for news, business, sports, and everything you need in life. We'll be right back after the break.
Manchester 65 is New England's newest live music and events venue. If you're not completely enjoying your current live music experience, there is another option. Manchester 65 is large enough to support touring acts, yet small enough for that local feel. For upcoming events, go to manchester65.com. Make it your place. Manchester65.com.
ProvidenceNightOut.com is a one-stop destination website where you'll discover a comprehensive guide of everything that the Providence area has to offer. Nightlife, entertainment, dining and dancing, community and family events, and so much more. Download the free app called My Night Out. It's ProvidenceNightOut.com.
Mike's Professional Tree Service offers top-of-the-line tree removal, trimming, stump grinding, stump removal, and so much more. Mike's Professional Tree Service will do everything to safeguard your home and property and is fully licensed and insured. Call them today at 401-823-7485 for a free estimate on tree service, tree removal, trimming, and tree care. That's 401-823-7585. Mike's Professional Tree Service are the tree experts serving all of Rhode Island. Online at mikesprotree.com. That's mikesprotree.com. Midday Records is a label that is comprised of local artists and exists for the sole purpose of helping other local artists find new opportunities and to help build a more thriving New England music scene. Midday Records hosts the area's fastest-growing music-related networking event, the Midday Social, books Midday Records presents shows throughout New England, releases compilations featuring local music, promotes bands through the Midday blog, are the co-founders of Music for Pause, and has recently started an artist development and management division. Stay up to date with Midday Records by checking them out on your favorite social media site like Facebook and Twitter, and find them online at middayrecords.com. That's middayrecords.com.
The Dennis Miller Show on AM 790 Talk and Business.
Eric Holder announced yesterday that it is reviving a law enforcement group that will investigate domestic terrorists, not to be confused with the domestic terrorists that were on what is ostensibly American soil that we released from Gitmo the other day.
Smart, entertaining, and relevant. The Dennis Miller Show, weekdays at noon on AM 790 Talk and Business. Your home for Yankees baseball.
Talk Radio on AM 790, your station for, well, like I said, anything that really matters in the world. Sitting here again, we are Tony Jones free. We are missing his large, looming metaphysical presence. I am, however, sitting here with Chris Havoc. Chris, how are you today?
I'm great tonight. How are you, P.O.?
Great tonight. Listen, I want to make this stand right now. We on the Coalition are a little bit too, quirky, a little bit too, short. The nuns would have a field day. I'd have a stretch out right here, right now, and how we approach the serious matters in life. You know, when we talk about the pension scandal, the pension issues in this state, these are times when sober minds must come together and coalesce and bring together the big solutions. All right? This is when we need to actually, as a group, move forward with the big ideas.
What's the big idea?
What's the big idea? What is the big idea? Well, what can I say? You know, we've had coalitions, we've had study groups, we've had everybody looking at this situation. So we as a group have decided that we are going to have what we call the Riley Report.